If you're a Sagittarius Sun, you've probably been called commitment phobic, reckless, responsible, and unreliable so many times that people treat your entire personality like it's one long avoidance of anything serious. They act like your need for freedom is immaturity, your honesty is cruelty, and your optimism is delusion. Delulu. They think you're running from something instead of running towards something. But I think here's what they're missing. Your sun sign isn't some refusal to grow up. It's your developmental assignment, shaped by the seasonal conditions you were born into. You see, Sagittarius season, it falls in late autumn, heading into early winter, which is roughly November 22nd through December 21st. In the period leading up to the winter solstice, the darkest day of the year. This is when the days are getting shorter, the cold is setting in, and you need vision to make it through what the heck is coming. This isn't about being flaky or irresponsible. It's about being born into the season that teaches expansion, meaning making, philosophical perspective, and the specific kind of intelligence that comes from being able to see beyond immediate circumstances. You see, what people call Sagittarius traits are actually pre solstice survival strategies. So let's clear this up. If your sun is in Sagittarius, here are 10 things people, most likely at least, get wrong about you. Number one, people think you're commitment phobic when you're actually refusing commitments that limit growth. So the commitment phobic label is the big one, and it completely misses what you're actually doing because you're not afraid of commitment, you're afraid of stagnation. Because late autumn before the solstice is about maintaining movement and expansion, even as everything contracts. You need to keep growing, learning, expanding, or you feel like you're dying. You don't avoid commitment, you avoid commitments that would cage you. Wouldn't anyone else? You'll commit deeply to things that allow continued growth, right? Relationships that evolve, careers that expand, places that will offer new experiences. Now, what you can't do is commit to situations that demand you stay exactly the same forever. And that's not fear. I think that's knowing yourself. So the people who call you commitment phobic usually want you to commit to things that will require you to stop growing. They want you to settle into fixed patterns and just stay there, which you can't do because your developmental assignment is expansion. What they call commitment phobic is actually you protecting your need for continued growth and evolution, like a Pokemon, baby. Okay, maybe I should stop. Number two, people think you're tactless when you're actually prioritizing truth over comfort. See, tactless, I think that suggests that you're socially incompetent, but you're not. You understand social conventions just fine. You just don't think they're more important than honesty. Because late autumn, before the solstice, is when you need some clear vision. You can't afford comforting lies when you're preparing for the darkest time of the year. Instead, you need the truth even when it's uncomfortable. When you say something blunt, you're not really trying to hurt anyone. You're just trying to name what's real. You see through pretense and performance quickly, and you don't have a patience for continuing the charade. You'd rather have an uncomfortable truth, I think, that everybody can work with than have a comfortable lie that will keep everyone stuck. So the people who call you tactless are usually people who prefer polite fiction to honest feedback because they want you soft and they want you to soften and to hedge and to cushion every truth until it's meaningless, which is something you can't do because you value clarity more than comfort. And what they call tactless is actually offering the direct truth that most people are too scared to speak. Number three, people think you're reckless when you're actually taking calculated risks based on future vision. You see, reckless, it implies you're not thinking about consequences, but you are. You're just willing to accept that certain risk in service of expansion. Late autumn, before the solstice, it requires some bold moves, and you can't just play it safe and expect to just have what you need when winter comes. No, you have to take strategic risks while there's still time. So when you leap into something that looks crazy to others, you're not being careless, you're betting on a possibility you can see that they can't because you have vision. You can see potential futures and pathways that aren't visible to people who are only focused on these immediate circumstances. Yeah, you'll take risks, but they're based on seeing further ahead. And the people who call you reckless are usually people who probably y'all can't see past next week, okay? They think that planning means controlling every variable. And you know that real planning means being adaptable and willing to move fast when opportunities appear. And what they call reckless is actually you taking action based on longer range vision than most people can access. Number four, people think you're irresponsible when you're actually prioritizing experiences over obligations. You see, irresponsible, that kind of suggests that you're just neglecting duties. But you're not neglecting them. You're questioning whether they're actually duties or just habitual obligations that don't serve anyone. Because late autumn before the solstice is when you need to conserve energy for what matters. So you're not about to waste it on just some meaningless obligations. You're responsible to what you value: growth, fruit, experience, earning. You're not just responsible to obligations that other people assigned to you without your freaking agreement. So when you skip something quote unquote important, maybe it's because you've evaluated and decide it actually ain't that important. And I don't think that's irresponsibility. What if that's priorities? The people who call you irresponsible probably confuse responsibility with obedience. They probably think that being responsible means doing what you're told. You probably think being responsible means doing what matters. Those aren't the same thing. So, what they call irresponsible could actually be you being responsible to your values, I think, instead of their expectations. Number five, people think you're superficial when you're actually sampling widely to find meaning. See, being superficial and that accusation, I think it shows up because you like to try a lot of things, to learn bits of everything, and you don't commit to being an expert in one narrow area. But that's not being superficial. I think that's you cynicizing. Because late autumn before the solstice, it requires broad perspective. So you need to see the big picture, not just one little detailed corner of it. So you sample widely because you're looking for patterns, connections, and meanings across different domains. And you're not interested in going too deep into one thing because it may mean missing the relationships between other things. You're a synthesizer, not a specialist. You want to understand how everything fits together. And the people who call you superficial usually value depth over breadth and think that specialization is superior. They may not be able to see the intelligence in the synthesis. You're not skimming because you're lazy. You're covering ground because you're mapping territory. So what they call superficial could actually be you building the broad knowledge base that allows you to see patterns that others miss. Number six, people think you're unreliable when you're actually refusing to lock into fixed plans that will limit your possibility. See, unreliable, it suggests that you don't follow through. But you do follow through on what matters to you, at least. What you don't do is honor commitments made to plans that are no longer relevant because late autumn before the solstice is dynamic. Conditions change, better options appear. You have to stay adaptable or you miss opportunities. And when you change plans, you're not being flaky, you're responding to new information. Listen, you may have made a plan based on what you knew then. Now you know more. So you're pivoting, you're adjusting, and that's intelligence, not unreliability. She got probably can kind of be a little bit of both. But the problem is that other people want plans to be rigid, and you probably see plans as provisional frameworks that evolve. So the people who call you unreliable usually need fixed plans to feel secure. They're uncomfortable with adaptation, you being spontaneous, and you may not be able to live that way. You may need flexibility to respond to opportunity. And what they call unreliable could actually be you staying open to better possibilities instead of just rigidly sticking to outdated plans. Number seven, people think you're overpromising when you're actually speaking from optimistic vision, not current reality. See, the overpromising accusation, it comes up because you talk about possibilities like they're certainties, and sometimes they just don't plan out. But that may not mean you're lying. It could mean that you're speaking from vision because late autumn before the solstice requires optimism. If you can't see beyond your current limitations, you're not going to make it through winter. You see what could be, not just what is. So when you say something will happen, you probably mean it could happen if conditions align and everyone commits. You're not guaranteeing outcomes. You're painting a picture of possibility. Other people may hear promises where you meant vision. And that's more of a translation problem, not dishonesty. So the people who call you overpromising probably usually want guarantees that you can't give. They may want you to only speak about what's certain, which is almost nothing when you really think about it. You speak from possibility because possibility it motivates action. What they call overpromising is actually you articulating vision in a way that inspires movement toward it. Number eight, people think you're preachy, like I probably sound right here, okay? when you're actually sharing philosophical frameworks that help you make sense of things. See, preachy, it implies you imposing beliefs on people, but you're not trying to convert anyone. You're trying to share frameworks that work for you. Late autumn before the solstice is when you need meaning making based systems to navigate darkness. You find philosophical frameworks, and yeah, you share them enthusiastically because they helped you. So you talk about big ideas, truth, meaning, freedom, belief systems because these things matter to you. And you're not saying that everyone should think what you think. You're saying, hey, here's how I made sense of things. Maybe it'll help you too. And I think that's offering, not imposing. So the people who call you preachy are usually people who are uncomfortable with anyone having strong philosophical convictions. They think that beliefs should be private and quiet, which is something you can't do because your beliefs inform how you live and you process by discussing. So, what they call preachy is actually you engaging with ideas publicly instead of keeping them hidden. Number nine, people think you're restless when you're actually needing some variety to maintain some engagement. See, restlessness, it suggests that you can't sit still. But that's not quite right. You can be still. You just can't be still in the same place doing the same thing forever. Late autumn before the solstice is about gathering diverse experiences before winter locks everything down. So you need novelty and new terrain, or you stagnate. So you move frequently, be it that physically, intellectually, emotionally, because sameness, it kills your vitality. You're not running from anything, you're running towards novelty, which is what keeps you engaged with life. When things become routine, you lose energy. When things are alive, you're alive. The people who call you restless usually can't find comfort in routine and repetition. They think that stability means staying sameness, and you find stability in movement. You need change to feel grounded. And what they call restless is actually you maintaining that variety that keeps you engaged and growing. Number 10. People think you're non-committal about beliefs when you're actually holding beliefs provisionally as you learn more. See, this one's related to the first point, but I think kind of worth separating because people think you don't have real beliefs because you change your mind when you get new information. But you do have beliefs. You just hold them as your best current understanding rather than the absolute truth. And late autumn before the solstice is about staying open to what you haven't learned yet. So you're philosophically curious, which means you're always learning, which means your understanding evolves. You believe something yesterday based on what you knew yesterday. You believe something different today based on what you know today. And you'll probably believe something different tomorrow based on what you know tomorrow. And that's growth, not inconsistency. And the people who think you're non committal usually believe that real conviction means never changing your mind. They think that doubt is weakness. You think that flexibility is strength. You're committed to truth seeking, which means sometimes abandoning beliefs that no longer hold up. So, what they call non committal could actually be you being more committed to truth than to consistency. So, the bottom line, if you're a Sagittarius Sun, you're not flaky, list, or irresponsible. Even though you probably can come off a little tactless, okay? Let's be honest with y'all. But mainly, you're a pre-solstice specialist. You're built for expansion, vision, meaning making, and the kind of intelligence that comes from seeing beyond immediate circumstances to future possibilities. What people call your negative traits are usually sophisticated strategies for the season you were born into. You're not here to settle into fixed patterns and just stay there forever. You're here to keep growing, exploring, and expanding your understanding. You're not here to soften the truth to protect people's feelings. You're here to name what's real so everyone can work with it. You're not here to honor obligations that don't serve growth. You're here to protect your freedom to evolve, like a Pokemon again. The people who get you understand that your love for freedom isn't fear, it's a need for growth, that your bluntness isn't cruelty, it's clarity, that your optimism isn't delusion, it's vision, and your adaptability isn't flakiness, it's intelligence. The people who don't get you will keep asking you to settle down, to commit, to be more careful, to think before you speak. And you know what? Go ahead, let them. Because you got more important work to do, like maintaining the vision and expansion that carry people through dark times when they can't see the way forward themselves, period.